Hello and welcome to the Honor and Knowledge channel. If you recall, my Hungry Strike for America is because besides wanting to lose 50 pounds prior to the end of October of 2026 in order to support a opinion, a feeling, a belief I have that if I lose 50 pounds, the Republicans will maintain control of the House and the Senate in 2026. And I don't want to hear impeach, impeach, impeach from the Democrats if they take over, so we got to keep it. So we need some passion. Passion, yes. Chemicals, no. So my Hungry Strike for America is not using chemicals. And it's also not using Ozempic. I'm just using reduced calories, burning up more calories than I intake. So here's a little bit more about problems with Ozempic.
Ozempic has exploded in popularity as both a diabetes and a weight loss drug, but now it's at the center of a legal blowback kind of situation. More than 1,800 lawsuits have been filed over adverse side effects, with the liability estimated at more than $2 billion. Our legal expert, Whitney Traylor, is here to break this down. So let's talk first about the claims against Ozempic.
Yeah, and essentially they're saying that, hey, you marketed this drug and you downplayed, they're claiming that they downplayed the potential harm that it would cause, and it's causing these very severe side effects.
Not looking for anything from you except your interests, likes and subscribes if you could, and your comments. Do you want me to explain anything more? Do you want me to talk to you about how I'm actually losing the weight for the Hungry Strike for America? But without further ado, let's talk about what's going on in this video. A lot of things in the news about redistricting, especially from California and Texas. But first, before we go on any further, let's talk about the two main things for the Hungry Strike for America. Pound number 7 has been lost, as shown on the official Hungry Strike for America sign, and we have the official map of the United States showing the states that we've already covered that had the highest population percentage voting for President Trump in the 2024 elections. And at number 7, we have the great state of Kentucky, which happens to have voted for President Trump at almost 65% in 2024. It has 6 House seats, of which 5 are held by Republicans and 1 by a Democrat. Yes, they could redistrict if they wanted to and get all of the 6 seats for the Republicans, but they have no plans to do any redistricting. The 2 senators for Kentucky are Senator McConnell and Senator Rand Paul. Both of them are well known by most Americans. Senator McConnell is not running for re-election next year. Senator McConnell has been a truly great servant of the American people. He has led the Republican Party in the Senate for about 14 to 15 years. Great guy. He has really done a lot for our country. Senator Rand Paul, a very interesting fella. He's a doctor, ophthalmologist, and he has strong libertarian views. I actually greatly appreciate his involvement with politics and helping our country out. Congressman Comer is somebody that most of us would know. He's chair of the Committee on Oversight and Accountability, and he appears on TV a lot, so most of us would know about him. Congressman Guthrie is a 1987 graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point. He's also a veteran of the 101st Airborne, so he's somebody I would greatly support. Congressman Morgan McGarvey is the lone Democrat House member from the state of Kentucky. His district consists mostly of the city of Louisville. He is the typical dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. He misled people with regards to what the big beautiful bill would do to impact people, and he is not somebody who has, at least I can tell, anything close to independence. Back to the Republicans, Mr. Thomas Massie, who has been a thorn in the side of Speaker Johnson, but somebody who I actually respect greatly, and he's a brilliant fellow. He's got a BS in electrical engineering, a master's in mechanical engineering, both from MIT. I believe he's got a brilliant mind. I'd like to see the Republicans figure out how to use him to help them out a lot. Then we have Congressman Hal Rogers. He is extremely experienced in the House. He's been in there since 1980. He's a good American and a patriot. Next and last, we have Mr. Andy Barr, who, as best I can tell, It knows how to campaign hard. He lost his first election by a narrow margin and has won all the other elections since then for the House. He seems to be also a great American and patriot. Besides the Hungry Strike for America, we're also going to be talking about redistricting as well as the census from 2020 and what's going on with that. There's some issues there. So without further ado, let's move on. So in the great state of Texas, yes, they have been approving the new congressional district lines, and Governor Abbott should be signing it soon. They should be adding 5 seats for the Republicans. Moving on to the state of California, it's a lot more complicated and more fun. First of all, Gavin Newsom, the governor, has signed the legislation for the special session and the vote with the redrawn House districts for California, which, if finally approved by the voters this fall, will give them 5 more seats for the Democrats. And in California, we would be expecting a lot of lawsuits, just like in Texas, but they have some other problems. First of all, they have to win the vote this fall for the redistricting to occur. Then Governor Newsom and the Democrats in California have the problem of the Arnold.
Former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger told the New York Times that he, quote, promised the people of California that we are going to create a commission that would be independent of the politicians, and there will be an independent citizens commission drawing the lines. So I'm not going to go back on my promise. I'm going to fight for my promise. Explain that to us. For those of us who don't live in California, he is not the current governor. How much sway would he even have on this?
Well, you know, he's a popular figurehead in the state, former governor of California. He hasn't really been overly involved in politics in recent years, but for some, he may sway voters, and for some, he may not. We do have a recent poll from Politico that shows 64% of Californians support keeping the independent redistricting commission, which could be very telling for the November election.
So this poll was pretty interesting from Politico. If you read it, it says 64% of the Californians support keeping the Independent Redistricting Commission, which would imply that they're not supportive of what the legislature is doing. But listen to what the media interprets this to say, wrongly, of course.
If we get there, this is a deep blue state, so if this measure goes to voters, they could likely approve it to circumvent the redistricting that is happening in Texas.
So even though it says 64% are in favor of the commission, she thinks that they're all going to vote to say the legislature's map is the right thing. I don't think so. And then you add to that things are slowly sliding towards the Republicans in California. And you also add to that this is an important voter thing in this fall. And so a lot of Republicans who may say, why go vote? They may come out. So I'm not ready to give up on this one. I believe this is going to be an exciting fall to see what happens in California. Now, this very sad picture is of 2 illegal immigrants, and this is about the time that the SUV with 3 people that died hit their semi-truck in Florida. This picture might just become one of the big reasons why the Democrats will continue to fall apart, and they will do poorly in 2026. Yes, this accident occurred in Florida, but it killed Floridians, and that was caused by California and Washington State, and maybe New Mexico. And what about redistricting in my state of Florida, the free state of Florida? Here, we're going to be hearing Governor DeSantis talking about the 3 reasons why Florida will be redistricting, which will provide several more Republican seats.
The count of Florida in the most recent census. I think most people know we were undercounted in that census. You know, I spoke with people at the Commerce Department, and they said Florida's going to get 2 additional seats. New administration takes office. We end up getting 1 seat, state of Florida. You know, Oregon got 1. We got the same as Oregon over that period of time. And even the Biden administration a couple years later said that there was undercount in Florida. That Florida should have gotten at least 1 more seat in Congress. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but every state that got shortchanged was a Republican state, and every state that got more was a Democrat state. That's just the truth. Award Florida what we're entitled to, an extra seat in Congress. We are going to press this issue. And let me also say that there's the issue, which I think is important, about, okay, you count people And then you've got people, especially in like California, who are illegally in the country. Should you be rewarded for that and more seats in Congress because you're a sanctuary jurisdiction? I don't think so. I don't think it's right. When you do congressional apportionment, that should be based on people who are lawfully present in the country. The other issue that is going to be significant,
And here's the second issue from Governor DeSantis.
it's going to have a bearing on Florida's congressional districts, is the idea of race-based districts. So the U.S. Supreme Court has accepted a case. It's going to be argued in October, basically asking the question about whether is it appropriate to use race when you're drawing districts. If you if that district elected a Republican, they would say that that's a bad district. It basically means that district has to elect a Democrat. That's the way this has been interpreted over the years. We have at least one in our congressional map that is configured strangely.
Yep, the Florida 20th House District. You can see it here, and it's got one big thumb with a little finger and then another finger.
To be able to comply with that interpretation of the Voting Rights Act, people are now bringing a challenge saying, you know what, Voting Rights Act means you show up to vote. If you're a lawful citizen, you get to vote. They can't play games with you. But are we saying that you have to draw these strange districts to be able to manufacture a certain number of folks of certain race or not race in one district? That is using race to draw the districts in ways that I think some people, I do, interpret the 14th Amendment to not allow. So we're going to render a decision on this perhaps by the end of the year, the beginning of next year. Our primary is a year away. So we have time to be able to digest those changes.
And here's the third Florida issue for redistricting.
Now, apart from what happens with the Commerce Department and the Census Bureau, apart from what happens with the U.S. Supreme Court and how they interpret Section 2 of the VRA, we do have a situation in Florida where, based on the recent Florida Supreme Court decision, there may be things in the map that we are going to have to, the legislature would have to address. We're going through it. I know people are looking at it, but there's definitely some decisions that were made by the legislature last time, particularly in southern Florida, that may not comport with the court's recent decision upholding the northern part of Florida with the part of the map that was challenged.
You probably wouldn't be surprised to find out that southern Florida is more of a hotbed of Democrats than northern Florida is. So that would be unfair again to the Republicans.
So that obviously is a basis to go in and do this thing fresh. We've had really significant growth and migration, and our congressional map should reflect that. So this is something that we are going to have to address as a state.
And how about some more bad news for the Democrats and good news for the Republicans?
But let's start with the Democrats, and they are in crisis mode with data showing the party is bleeding support. The New York Times reports that in the 30 states that track voter registration by political party, Democrats lost ground to Republicans in every single one between 2020 and 2024. And in some states by quite a lot. The 4-year swing towards the Republicans adds up to 4.5 million voters.
And
But the Times also reporting that the party saw some of its steepest declines in registrations among young voters, and Donald Trump has been instrumental in that.
Rita, the Democrats really are panicking, in part because that report comes from their newspaper, the New York Times. And as you say, 30 out of 30 states, it's a nationwide trend, and it's strongest among young people and also among minorities. And that's a key point, too, because the Democrats' strategy has been to build a permanent winning coalition that's based primarily on minority voters. That strategy right now is not looking good at all. And so, yeah, the Democrats really are in a panic.
thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you very much for your interest in these subjects, and hopefully it keeps you interested as it's keeping me interested in ensuring that we have passion for the purposes of keeping the House in Republican control and the Senate in 2026. God bless America. God bless President Trump. God bless you. See you next week.